Good morning. My name's Tom Gonzalez, and on behalf of the Horticulture School Planning Committee, I'd like to welcome you to the fourth webinar in our 2025 spring webinar series. Today's webinar is entitled Identification and Management of Vegetable Diseases and is presented by Dr. Vikram Bisht. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Dr. Bish during the presentation, please enter them into the chat feature on your screen, and he will be able to answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Vikram is a plant pathologist for potato and horticultural crops with Manitoba Agriculture. He has worked in pathology both internationally and in Canada. Vikram has been with the department for over 15 years and is responsible for surveillance of diseases and pests on potato and horticultural crops, as well as providing disease management recommendations. He has conducted numerous research projects into diverse disease and presented results at extension events over his career. Take it away, Vikram.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I am Vikram. I have been with the department for over 15 years, working with vegetables, small fruits, and also potatoes. Most of my time, however, is spent working with potato. I will be talking about a few vegetables, but I welcome questions on other crops as well. And because of the limitation of time, this is what I plan to present today. So it will be on tomatoes, carrots, squashes, crucifer vegetables, and onion. There are a lot of diseases on onion, but I will include in this presentation only the neck rot. Can you see my pointer? Okay, here
Yes, you sure
you
can.
see the leaf infected with a late blight disease. And if you look at the upper surface here, you can see light, you can say light green. Inside the central area is brown to dark brown. And if you look on the underside, you will see early in the mornings covered with white spores. The fruit is infected as well, and this is a very destructive phase. And you can see here, one of the growers thought that his tomatoes appeared to be good. After a few days in storage, he had to throw them all. And it's a very destructive disease. This disease also goes on to the potatoes, and again here you can see the leaf spots, but it's the underside under very high humidity that you will see that powder. And when it is raining with a lot of wind, these spores from here, millions of them, will then move miles and infect other crops, tomatoes, potatoes, and it can also go on hairy nightshade. So in some cases, it's the hairy nightshade which may be the start of the disease. And one has to be careful to not have too much hairy nightshade around your farm. So weed control is an important thing. One of the other things for weed control or disease control is the resistant varieties. Resistance is one of the cheapest ways to manage a disease. So there are some hybrids and some heirloom varieties which are resistant to the disease, and you can see the difference between the two crops. So this one probably in another week will be all dark brown, and you would be getting good fruits in this one. Uh, Many other varieties are not resistant and they need to have fungicide control. One of the other good things for managing this disease is to have good air movement within the crop. You cannot have them very compact. Anyway, so here are certain fungicides that can be used for the control of the late blight. There may be certain newer ones too, but here uh, you have Acrobat, Bravo, Copper, Dithane, which is the Menzate, Headline, Quadris, and some of these things you may remember from your other crops as well. So there is a post-harvest treatment possible for uh, potatoes, but I am not sure if there is much use in the tomatoes. But this can be used as a foliar spray as well, the confined, Fostrol, and Rampart. I'll come to the next disease, which is quite common and important in Manitoba, and this is the early blight. Here you can see is caused by a fungus. It has concentric rings. If you look at this particular spot, you will see that the leaf spot has grown and it has uh, concentric brown and lighter color rings. That's classic symptom of what it is. And for us to confirm that it is the same fungus, we look at the long-beaked spores under the microscope. The disease is, you can say, it can spread very fast. It usually comes when the plants are stressed, and also the high humidity and moisture are sort of a precursor for good infection. There are a lot of fungicides which are available for the control of early blight. There are many more, but if you wish to have more details, here you can go into the Health Canada website where you can find the details and look for what chemical is registered for use on that crop and for what disease. Next is a disease which is septoria leaf spot. And here you'd see that even though there are leaf spots, they're slightly different. And the center is light color and the margins are dark color compared to what you see here in the early blight, that there are concentric rings and they're all dark. Uh, so that's one of the main differences. The disease development and the control for both of the early blight and the septoria leaf spot is practically the same. So you can use the same fungicide for control of both of these diseases. Okay. And these are the two important fungal diseases. There are other diseases which could include the viruses, and here often seen in Manitoba, especially during the dry summers, uh, that the leaves are turning yellow and they have, you can say, crinkling. Uh, so it may be important to look on the underside that we do have or we don't have these flower thrips. And if you have these thrips underside and the leaves are, crinkly like this, very soon you may have fruits which will be, with mottled or rings or large patches of discolored skin would be seen. And we can say it is probably the tomato spotted wilt virus. There is another disease that is the rugose virus, but that is currently not very commonly seen in Canada. It's more in the greenhouses, not in the fields. So it is this particular virus is transmitted by the flower thrips. So it is the thrips that we control or manage or prevent from multiplication that will help us control the problem from spreading. Now, here are the uh, mineral oil, Entrus, spinosad, delegate. There are quite a few other insecticides that can be used for controlling the thrips. In 2017, I was called to a home gardener and I saw this disease and I sent it for diagnosis, but the virologist could not identify the disease. And I'm still perplexed whether it is the rugose virus or it is the spotted wilt virus because they are very similar in some of their, you can say, symptoms. Here, this particular crop, it was a patch of about 5 meters by 10 meters, and nothing was harvested which did not look ugly like this. So it can be a very devastating disease. I'm showing this here so that if you ever see some of these symptoms like that, can you please keep some of these samples and let me know right away, and we'll try to diagnose. Uh, the disease can spread into the greenhouses and be a big trouble. Anyway, I have seen some thrips showing up in our greenhouses as well. At this time, they are just a nuisance and can lead to rasping injury. That is, when the thrips use their mouth parts, they will scrape the uh, skin on the underside and cause white patches. So here you can see that. At the moment, they may not be spreading virus diseases. Okay, and this is in 2025 greenhouse. So you can see thrips here. Some of the other problems in tomatoes can be on the seedlings that the growers are raising right now. And quite often they feel that everything is going good. They are fertilizing properly, they are watering every day, and then still the plants have just turned yellow. The leaves are appearing to be burnt. And what's going on? And in this case, I would say, please confirm that you are not overwatering. There is good drainage in the trays, and also you're not putting fertilizer too often or too much, because salt toxicity can also lead to these leaves turning, you know, uh, yellow, and basically the plant will not grow very well because the roots are growing in highly toxic uh, salt concentration. And sometimes it's the grow mix issue. Uh, I have had a few batches of grow mix where uh, there is some infection coming in from the grow mix itself. Not many times, but there have been a few times when even new batches created trouble for me. Now, these are some of the reasons uh, that we had found that Tom and I had visited one or two greenhouses, and these were the main problems. Sometimes the yellowing could be just the lack of good light. Uh, And so it's very important that in the cloudy days of our winters, we provide enough supplementary light as well. Now, there's another problem that shows up in the greenhouses, that your leaves are turning yellow. The plants have grown very well, Sometimes they are curled up like this, and they are uh, problems of intervenal chlorosis. That is, they are getting lighter color between the veins. That is because of sulfur contamination in the greenhouse, sulfur dioxide, and this cupping, downward cupping, is because of ethylene in the uh, greenhouse. Tomatoes are extremely sensitive. Other crops may not be showing it, but tomatoes start looking very funny. And in this particular case, I found that the exhaust may have been too close or not going far away from the greenhouse that we have here. And even small levels or ppm levels can be quite, you can say, harmful to the tomatoes. So it is important that our uh, exhaust is further away from our greenhouses, and one should be aware what is happening. Now I'm going to shift into carrots. We have one large commercial grower who is able to supply to many of our stores within the province. And we have lots of small growers who are either market gardeners or they are uh, growing at home. Still, it is helpful if one knows what the symptoms of some of the diseases are. Some of the key diseases I will talk here. Uh, Commercial industry has very strict regulations or market standards, and there is a lot of wastage. So if your carrots are with forks, they have a slight bend, they are too short or too large, they are not good enough for sale. And so here, one of our commercial growers had basically thrown truckloads of carrots, and some lucky cattle will get this, but the grower doesn't get any benefit out of this. So it's a tough industry to grow things commercially. At home, if we have any bent carrot, we don't mind, but commercially, we want the best looking carrots. Also, we have a lot of imports coming in, and it is difficult to compete against many of those imports from the US. Here is the forking that uh, you can often see in your own or in the commercial gardens, and it can be caused either by a hard pan in the soil, that is, the carrot can't go deeper, or it can be because of a fungus called pythium, and this will cause the root ends, growing points from basically they rot, and the growth starts from a new point, and that's why you have the forking. We isolated the fungus and then we inoculated. These are small plugs of the fungus, and within 2 days, the whole carrot basically became very soft and started showing rot. So this disease can be controlled, uh, but is soil-borne, and so soil-borne diseases are not easy to control. You cannot spray on top of the foliage to control the disease on the roots. So we need to have seed treatment, and quite often metalaxyl is used. There are some other biologicals that can be used as a drench, but the efficacy is not very good. And now here is the difference between the presence of the pythium in the soil versus not. So on the left side, you have a pot inoculated with the fungus, and you can see that the plants are sort of wilting, or they did not even emerge. And so uh, you have a good growth on the right side. So that shows the impact of the disease. There's another disease which is called the white mold or Sclerotinia rot, and it is a very important disease for the storage. Here you can see that the Sclerotinia fungus is growing on a very moist soil, and the carrot canopy is usually almost enclosed, and so the canopy stays very wet underneath, and the fungus easily grows. And this starts from the sclerotia, which are the overwintering bodies. And once the carrots are infected, they are then going to create further problem in the storage. Here you can see the fungus has just multiplied on the carrot surface. Carrots are very rich in sugars, and so the fungus loves this source of food. And here you can see after a few weeks of growth, you see many of these sclerotia. These are the overwintering structures, and uh, can be a problem when another susceptible crop is growing in the same field next year. So there are a lot of control measures, but before I talk about the control, I will also let you know that white mold has a extremely wide host range, and it can go onto other vegetables here, and it can also go onto the canola. And so, quite often, the field crops people say you need petals to be infected to cause the infection on the plant. But you can say yes for the zucchini or the pumpkins, you can say yes, they are petals. But what about cabbage? Cabbage has no petals. So, in this case, the infection happens because the cabbage leaves provide a very, very good uh, condition for the fungus to grow and infect. And uh, just talking about the major problems in many crops, canola, beans, soybeans, carrots, and sunflower. So many of you must have seen or actually used fungicides to control diseases in those. Now, uh, carrots do not have many in-field chemical fungicide options currently. Biofungicides, Contans is used and Serenade is used, but their efficacy is not very great. And there's a new chemical fungicide called Scholar that is highly effective. And I did some trial with one of the growers, and here is the uh, box which had been treated with the Scholar fungicide, and here is the box which was not treated, and you see so much difference. The fungus is growing on top, but uh, it was extremely difficult to take the carrots out to throw because they were all combined because of this fungus. Anyway, uh, there is another disease. Some of you may have seen uh, hairy carrots, and these are probably because of this aster yellows. This aster yellows goes on to many other crops. Uh, Canola is one of the other major things. It goes onto the asters, flowers. Uh, it goes on potatoes, and it the tops, they become very short. And because of that, the mechanical harvesting of infected carrots become difficult. However, some of them still get into the uh, storage because they get pulled along with the neighboring carrot. Anyway, this is what it looks like. Uh, the field is full of purple top leaves, and the purple top is because of the ester yellows. And this is spread by a leaf hopper called ester leaf hopper. And if you go into a carrot field and move your hand or you walk past, you will have hundreds or thousands of these flying out. And that means it's a big issue. There are certain insecticides available, and I have listed a few. Uh, for example, oh, sorry about that. Uh, there are certain varieties which are disease tolerant, and so they will not show much symptom. They may not grow much hairy roots. The carrots with hairy roots are quite often bitter in taste, and uh, they're not very palatable. Certain insecticides are Upside, Actera, and a few other things are available. If you need more details, we can talk another time. Uh, it goes into many crops, potatoes, and here is the squash, and here is the canola. So canola, you can see the pods become flat and there is no seed in there. And okay, I'm going to change the disease now. Some of you may have heard of the verticillium wilt, as it is called in Europe, but in Canada, we have changed the name to call it verticillium stripe. And this is a disease that has become rather important in the recent few days. You would be wondering why I'm talking about canola here. This is important because uh, even though it was just recently discovered in Canada, Manitoba in 2014, it has spread into many other fields. It can also affect many other crucifer crops. It can affect uh, cauliflower, cabbage, and many people grow radishes. And here I have a daikon radish photograph. I couldn't find the photograph for the round red radish, but that has similar blackening inside. And this is basically not a marketable product. So you can see on the stems, there is a lot of disease, and it is basically uh, going to be, you can say, bad for crucifer vegetables. In canola, it is in many, many areas of the province. I am now going to shift gear just a touch of cauliflower. This disease, uh, basically, a few years ago, devastated one of the cauliflower fields. It is a seed-borne disease caused by a bacterium called Xanthomonas, and then the sprinkler irrigation system, the rain, or workers going through the field when the leaves are wet in the morning, they can spread the disease. It is very difficult to control, um, but easy to recognize. So here you can see that when you break the stems, you will see black strings in there. These are the xylem vessels in which the bacteria have grown and are moving within the plant. And on the underside, you can see a lot of water-soaked spots. So this is a very new infection on the leaves. And so this is quite devastating because even though the curds of the flowers that you see are looking so beautiful at the harvest time, when you put them in the storage, they just rot away and makes the storage also extremely smelly. So one has to be very careful. What you're putting in the storage is clean, but quite often we don't realize they are infected. So a very, uh, you can say, bad disease for cauliflowers. The problem is usually started with the seed-borne or poor sanitation, or workers going through the field with their long pants when the leaves are still wet. Another crop is the gummy stem blight, and this one is on the cucurbits. This can be on the squashes and pumpkins. This is called gummy stem blight. During the, uh, you can say, it survives in the plant debris, and all the ground parts, above ground parts, are infected. And it is called gummy stem blight because of, you can say, the resin-like things or gum coming out from the infected stalks. Uh, Later, when it dries, there are pycnidia that you can see, and this can lead to poor storability of the uh, squashes and pumpkins. On the fruits, they can develop dark brown and sometimes black uh, blotches, and it would be called black rot in many places. So splashing water is what spreads the disease. Warm conditions are very favorable. Okay. I have control measures uh, in a few slides later. Now, here is a sample of what these pumpkins and squashes are infected with in the field, and they are going to rot if you keep them in a cold temperature. And this is what happened. I had kept some for research in a cold room, and I lost basically all of them. So what I learned is do not keep them in a cold room. Keep them in a warm place. And here is some of the measures that can be used. Harvest when the uh, fruit is mature. And then one of the best things is to harvest before the hard frost comes, because once it hits the frost, then fruits are not going to be stored very long. And the fruits need to be cured. So after harvest, they can be kept for 1 to 2 weeks in the field in the warm, dry conditions. And that way they can have a very cured skin. And once the skin is cured, they will probably resist getting bruising and other things, and they will store much, much better. So for curing, you can have either the field or 26 to 29 degrees uh, temperature and low humidity. Uh, and for long-term storage, you can have between say 5 to 15 degrees Celsius and not in a cold storage. Okay. Another important disease that we see in a lot of squashes and pumpkins is the powdery mildew. A few of you may have seen it. and it basically comes in when the relative humidity is very high, but it is not wet. The leaves are not wet. So uh, warm conditions uh, and high humidity favor the uh, disease infection and increase the problem. Here is what it is: high relative humidity, favorable for the disease and the conidial survival, and rain is not good. It can wash away the spores and prevent infection. But uh, the rains can also support the white mold. So uh, the fungal community has, conditions. Uh, you can have good conditions and one disease, and poor conditions, then there will be another disease. So it's a battle for survival, I suppose, between the plants and the pathogen. Now, the temperatures that support is about 68 to 80 degrees, and uh, even at extreme of 50 degrees and 90 degrees, infections can happen. And usually after the fruits have been initiated, that the infection appears. I suppose it is the stress on the plants that is one of the factors. So here, one of the important things to note is that 16 to 23 days after the young leaves are unfolded, that if you see powdery mildew around the vegetable garden, then it will be good to put some fungicide applications. And here are the list of the fungicides. Uh, it's a pretty long list of fungicides, and you can see I have mentioned the name of the company, the active, and also this is powdery mildew, gummy stem blight, fusarium gummy stem blight, and powdery mildew. So I have given a list of diseases that these fungicides can be used against. Okay. And here is a bigger list. Uh, Cordis is one of the very important fungicides. Elatus is very good. And you can see Bravo and Fracture, they have worked very well, but they work only for powdery mildew. Okay, so this list you can keep or print, and it can be useful uh, when you see the disease. Best to have preventative sprays rather than after the crop is half infected, then it's usually a waste of fungicide to put it later. I just wanted to touch base for the parsnip. This is black rot or Itosolenia canker. So Itosolenia is a fungus that loves wet soils and wet ground. And here you can see the lower portion is all blackened of the stalks, and uh, this can kill the plants. It infects the parsnips, the roots, and here it causes the crown rotting. In many cases, this crown rot can go much further down into the root system. And so it was quite devastating in one or two fields that we had checked earlier. I am not sure the presence of this disease, how extensive this will be. But those who grow these parsnips, if you see any black symptoms like these, can you please let me know, and we can collect and isolate and see the distribution of this disease in our soils. It can stay in the soils for quite a long time. Now, we had done some experiments, and here you can see how bad some of these uh, roots were looking in their centers. The outside looks fairly good, for example, here, but this is not sellable. So it goes to the market, and then the whole batch gets returned because of this black rot. Another disease that is of importance in Manitoba is the onion neck rot. Uh, Around in 2013, it had caused up to 60% losses in the storages. Uh, so the growers had to work really hard to make sure that the onions were cured in the field. There were some who wanted to cure the onions in the storage, but that takes a lot of, you can say, heat, a lot of gas, so a lot of costs. Their thinking was that in the field during the harvest there were rains quite often, and that could add to other problems. So uh, it was a choice some growers had made how to start. One of the other important things we learned from the growers is that if you were using transplants, the disease was much higher. And if you were direct seeding, disease was slightly lower. The infection on the onions start in the field and they become really bad in the storage. And uh, there will be uh, a detailed talk on this disease in the coming week. Dr. Poonam Singh will be talking about the disease in much more details. Just wanted to let you know, red varieties are more susceptible than the yellow or the white, and the losses in the reds have gone up to 75%. So basically, after all those expenses and putting them in the storage, the crop was lost. Those who grow on a smaller scale may not have that kind of loss because your storages or your onions may be well aerated. They have good aeration. And so that is one of the key things. Anyway, you will learn more on this disease next week. Another important thing that some of the home gardeners may want to know is that garlic that they buy suddenly rots, or if they have been using their own seed and they say, every year my garlic doesn't grow very well. So I got a chance to check one grower's garlic plot, and I saw there was a lot of rotting at the base, and we confirmed under the microscope that there were a lot of nematodes that were found in that in that garlic. This disease also goes to onions, and it stays in the ground. The uh, nematode can survive in the ground in Manitoba because of the snow cover. So what you see in this is yellowed tops. They are not grown very tall, and they are stunted, and they turn yellow, die very quickly, and you don't get very well-formed bulbs. One of the main sources of getting this problem is getting infected seed. Uh, I don't want to say, but some of the seed sources uh, need to be verified that they are legit seed growers and they have nematode-free status. Also, there is a combination of viruses that come with the uh, garlic cloves. So if you find a source which is selling good seed, try to get only from those guys. Uh, Getting inexpensive or a deal on the seed for garlic can be a loss-making project. Uh, how do you control? Uh, Dr. Mike Salati from Ontario had found that Vellum Prime, this is a Bayer product, is a fungicide but has good activity against nematodes. So if you apply in the furrows, you should be able to control the fungal as well as nematode problems. Just one more point, fusarium rot, basal rot is another big problem. And so the patches uh, where you have this can be solarized. That is, you put a plastic on top and let it, you can say, superheat during the summers. You cannot grow any crop there. That way, the thing can be very well, uh, you can say, heat treated. Uh, don't grow in that patch for another 2, 3 years so that the nematodes or the fusarium or other pathogen can be taken care of. One of the other important thing is sanitation. If you have problems like these in the garden, please do not carry the mud from one place to the other in your tractors. If you have quads, be very careful not to go into patches where you had so much disease. So sanitation is extremely important. Uh, One of the other important things is there's reference books, very good photographs and descriptions of various vegetable diseases, and you can buy it online or from the Canadian Plant Pathology Society. These are two books, one for the field crops and one for vegetable crops. And if you have any disease samples that you'd like to get diagnosed. If you are a commercial grower or you are having a large market garden, you can get your samples tested free of cost at our crop diagnostic lab that is in Winnipeg in the university building, 545 University Crescent. And you can look for the uh, address online. And if you need, I can send you the information. Uh, Thank you very much. This is the presentation I had. I could not cover many other important crops, but that's the limitation of the time. Here at the end, you are seeing uh, a good carrot crop. There are not many uh, purple leaves, and you see there's gaps between pairs of rows. So this is the system that some growers had used, that is, trim the foliage between the rows so that there is good air movement. This air movement uh, reduce the chance of the fungal infection happening in the area. So, okay, that's about it. If you have any questions,
Thanks very
you-
much, Vikram.
yes,
And yeah, as Vikram was saying, if you have any questions, type them into the chat. I'm going to moderate the chat here. Uh, okay, let's start with here's the question. Is there a PDF available with all these diseases?
I can make a PDF and please send me an email and I can make it available to you. It is also going to be put online. I think uh, we will be making it available. So if you need to have PDF or you need more details, I can certainly provide to you.
And yeah, Vikram is correct in that it'll take usually a day or so, but this recording will be posted onto the horticulture playlist on the Manitoba Agriculture YouTube site. When, as attendees, you'll get a notification of that being posted along with a link to access it. So, yep, that's good. Here's another one. I have an issue with my yellow and green beans. The
Okay.
entire plant is healthy, but they break off at the stems and show brown near the stem. There are lots of beans on them, and the plant itself is leafy and bright green. So I'm guessing the question is inferring, do you have any ideas as to what that might be?
If you have big blotches or spots on the stems and the whole plant is still green, it is possible there is anthracnose disease, a fungal disease, which can cause infections of the stems and later of the beans also. Uh, I'm trying to diagnose stomach ache uh, without seeing the patient. So I can just by the description say it is possible it's a fungal disease which goes on the stems. It will later basically slowly kill the plant. Best thing would be to take some pictures and send it to Tom or to Vikram, and we can help you diagnose and how to manage it.
Thanks, Vikram. Okay, so how about to do with early blight? On your slide dealing with early blight, when you were discussing control measures, you mentioned the fungicides available. Are there any cultural control measures you could recommend for early blight?
Early blight disease is favored by, uh, you can say, moist or humid conditions when the plants are stressed and there's very poor air circulation. So if you can take care of these conditions, you will be able to control. So if your plants are too close, that is, instead of recommended 2.5 feet plant to plant, you're planting them at about 1.5 feet because you got more seedlings than you thought you would need, and so you planted them too close. So that lack of airflow is going to create conditions favorable for the disease. So don't plant them too close. Number two, provide enough fertility. Do not short on the nitrogen, because when the plants are short of nitrogen, they basically take the nitrogen from the bottom leaves to the top, and the bottom leaves become more sensitive to the infection with the fungus. The spores germinate on nearly dying or yellow leaves. The third would be have good airflow. Mm, is there something else that I can? Yeah, these are any condition which stresses the plant should be removed.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. Okay, just going to go through the chat
Yeah.
here, the Q&A. I'm not seeing any additional questions. If anyone has questions, I encourage you to type them in now. I'll be able to ask them to Vikram if you can type them in fairly quickly. Not seeing any showing up. Okay, well, I guess this concludes today's webinar. On behalf of the Horticulture School Organizing Committee, I'd like to thank you for attending. Next week's webinar is entitled Early Detection of Onion Neck Rot Diseases in Manitoba. And if you'd like information on how to register, you can contact me at my email, tom.gonsalves at gov.mb.ca. And I'll just check the chat here again. I'm not seeing any additional questions. So, on behalf of Vikram and myself, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.